in Biden's desperation to get voters, he is pulling out his good friend, not that kind of pulling out, but he's pulling out his good friend, Bernie Sanders, that nutless wonder. But also everybody else is following along too, including Elizabeth Warren, because everyone now realizes for the first time in a long time that both these politicians are not who they say they are, as they are supporting somebody like Joe Biden. Now, Bernie Sanders is discussing with Biden potentially changing their support for Israel because of the recent aid works, right? Because Bernie right now is being put front and center because he can put together a coherent sentence, but don't fall for the trap, because Bernie, being the cuck that he is still going to tell you to vote blue for his good friend Joe Biden, even though Joe Biden and his administration knew that Israel was committing war crimes.
And we're back with our world lead. President Biden today making a previously unscheduled phone call to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This after an Israeli strike killed 7 aid workers in Gaza on Monday. The White House says Biden told Netanyahu that Israel needs to implement, quote, specific, concrete, measurable, unquote, steps to protect civilians and aid workers in Gaza.
Yes, even though, as we have shown, that Israel, the IDF, knew that those 3 vehicles were going down an approved route. They were in constant communication. I don't know how much more ironclad it has to be. Plus, the trucks were marked with the World Central Kitchen logo on it. I mean, how much more idiot proof do you have to make it? Seriously, this was deliberate. Not once, not twice, but 3 strikes. Tic-tac-toe, 3 in a row.
With us now, Independent Senator Bernie Sanders of Vermont. He's been voting against new aid for Israel as the humanitarian crisis in Gaza has worsened. Senator, Secretary of State Blinken today said that if the U.S. does not see changes to protect civilians in Gaza, there, quote, will be changes in our own policy, unquote. Do you believe them? I mean, I feel like we've been hearing this for a while.
Well, I think you make a good point, Jake. Look.
Oh, what a nutless wonder. Jake Tapper and Bernie. Two nutless jagoffs.
The bottom line is we are looking at one of the worst humanitarian disasters that we have seen in a very, very long time. We're literally, at this moment, looking at hundreds of thousands of children starving to death because Israel is not allowing the humanitarian trucks into Gaza, and especially into the areas where people are in most desperate condition. To my mind, Israel should not be getting another nickel in military aid until these policies are fundamentally changed. So if, my view is no more military aid to Israel when children in Gaza are starving.
So the realities for the political realities for Netanyahu, I'll get to the political reality for Biden in a second, but the political reality for Netanyahu is his prime ministership depends on the far right wing zealots, Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, who are anti-Arab racists. He depends on them. He needs them to stay in power. He needs to appease them as Arab and Palestinian rights and lives are discarded, both in Gaza and in the West Bank and in Israel. Is there any way towards a satisfactory end to this conflict as long as the Prime Minister of Israel is trying to appease the likes of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich?
Now, I want to pull up this here because no matter what Bernie's going to say, because I wanted them to speak for a little bit, Biden approves more bombs for Israel. This is from RT, just to own the libs. The administration of U.S. President Joe Biden has reportedly agreed to provide thousands of additional bombs to Israel, helping to replenish stockpiles that have been depleted by West Jerusalem's 6 months bombardment of Gaza. In 6 months, they depleted their entire arsenal. But wait, it gets better. I wanted Bernie the Nutless Wonder to speak. I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. I'm sorry. The latest weapons transfer was authorized on Monday, CNN and Washington Post reported on Thursday, citing unidentified U.S. government officials. The package includes, more than 1,000 Mk-82 bombs, which weigh 500 pounds each, as well as over 1,000 small-diameter munitions and fuses of Mk-80 bombs. The weapons transfer was finalized hours after news broke that the Israeli Defense Forces killed 7 aid workers, including U.S. and U.K. citizens, in a drone strike targeting a humanitarian aid convoy in the Palestinian enclave. Nearly 200 aid workers, 200 have reportedly been killed in Gaza and the West Bank since Israel's war against Hamas began in October. Although Biden has chided Israel for not doing enough to protect aid workers because Israel's killing them and other civilians in Gaza, his administration refused to throttle back its support for the IDF or place conditions on weapons shipments. Over 33,000. We're going to get to 40,000 very soon, folks. But that number is probably a lot higher than 30,000 right now, 33,000. Palestinians have been killed since the war began, according to Gaza health authorities, and the UN has warned of a humanitarian catastrophe if the IDF goes through with its planned ground offensive at the southern end of the enclave, which Netanyahu says, yes, he is. He is going to attack Rafah. If he hasn't done so already, he's still doing it. The Biden administration is also, again, I want to read this last sentence here, is reportedly pushing the legislature to approve of a new $18 billion sale of F-15 fighter jets to Israel. Hold on, and I want to get a correct correction. Aspen fallen tip $2, not IDF, they're the Israeli Occupation Force, IOF. Very true. By the way, folks, I want to pull this up here too before we see that nutless wonder, that cuck Bernie, speak out again. Give as fast as you can. Netanyahu pressures U.S. Congress on military aid. Oh my goodness! Are you telling me the world's most one-sided fist fight caught on film? They need more help. I mean, what does Gaza have? A terrorist air force and a terrorist tank platoon? I mean, the entire area of Gaza is leveled to the ground. It's gone. What more can you do to it that you haven't done to it already? You've killed 200 aid workers, journalists, and civilians. You won. You won, but that's not enough because you want to level Rafah to the ground. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has urged a Republican majority in the U.S. House of Representatives to reject Palestinian statehood and give West Jerusalem more weapons for a quick victory in Gaza. You already won. So many people are dead, but a quick victory, a super fast rush. Netanyahu met with again, it's not just Republicans, it's also Democrats too, because Biden wants to give more money, more bombs. He's going to do it. Netanyahu met with a 15-member congressional delegation on Thursday evening, shortly after a 45-minute phone call with President Joe Biden. Joe Biden was just probably like, yes, okay, all right, yeah, man, yeah, Jack, ice cream. His office did not release the readout of the call, choosing to post Netanyahu's remarks from the AIPAC organized event instead. Wow. Our battle is your battle. Our victory is your victory. Speak for yourself, man. And if we don't have a victory, this will have enormous implications for American security, for our common future. So we must win. So we must win. Really, must win? A must win. This is where we're at right now. Okay, so wait a minute. Hold on. If you're talking about a must win, I just want to pull up this here right now because this is rather concerning, especially with the actions what Israel recently did with its military actions in Iran. So I want to pull this up here. These are people panic buying. Israelis are in panic shopping en masse over growing fears of direct conflict and war with Iran.
של אנשים שמגיעים לקנות בכל זאת יום חמישי לקראת שישי שבת וגם מתכוננים לחגים, אבל עדיין לא נרשמה פעילות חריגה, למעט צריך...
Everybody's shopping. Everybody's shopping because of a war. Here's the thing. Everyone's always talks a big game. Oh, if a war started, I do this and I do that. Trust me, Anna, folks. If this war escalates to the sequel we've all been dreading for, WW3, hey, I hope you fulfilled all your dreams.
כלומר, מים מינרליים וגם נייר טואלט או מוצרים יבשים בסיסיים. נמצאת איתנו אחת מהלקוחות כאן בסופר.
Yes, everyone's panic buying. Do not panic. Do not panic, folks. It's still not the end just yet. The Israeli prime minister also told U.S. lawmakers that the Knesset had voted 99-9 to reject an attempt to ram down our throats a Palestinian state. They don't want a two-state solution. They don't want nothing, okay? Israel wants to occupy all of Gaza. Do you have those kinds of numbers? I think you might have those numbers if you bring the same resolution to Congress, he said. Republicans currently have a razor-thin majority in the 435-member House with 218 seats to the Democrats' 213. Netanyahu made no reference to Biden's demand for immediate ceasefire in Gaza or specific concrete measurable steps to address civilian harm, humanitarian suffering, and the safety of aid workers. So that means, by the way, those strikes, the more that story continues on, I have to view it in just my opinion, seemed very deliberate. As the U.S. readout on Thursday's phone call phrased it. According to the White House readout, Biden made clear to Netanyahu that U.S. policy with respect to Gaza will be determined by our assessment of Israel's immediate action on those steps. God damn it. Earlier this week, an Israeli strike killed 7 World Central Kitchen and aid workers in Gaza. The group was founded by celebrity chef Jose Andreas, a longtime Democrat and personal friend of Biden. Hey, Chef Andreas, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but your friend didn't give a damn about your 7 aid workers. He didn't give a damn about the people dying in Gaza. He just didn't. Now let's return back to the cuck. Say what you want to say again, Bernie.
Well, the answer is no. And our job is not to worry about Netanyahu's political future. That's not our job. Our job is to make sure that American taxpayer dollars is not complicit in allowing Netanyahu's military machine to kill innocent people and to result in mass starvation.
Do you believe anything that comes out of Bernie Sanders' mouth anymore? Type 1 for Kit. Bernie Sanders is a serious politician trying to navigate the swamps of D.C. He's doing the best he can. You awful man. Type 2. No, the guy was always a hack fraud. The guy was always a douchebag. He's speaking out of both ends of his mouth.
And I think what the people of Israel must understand, and I am pro-Israel. I support Israel.
Whoa! Pro-Israel! Support Israel! There he is. He's saying it live and direct. Hold on, just so y'all can hear it again. To those Bernie Sanders cucks out there.
Implicit in allowing Netanyahu's military machine to kill innocent people and to result in mass starvation. And I think what the people of Israel must understand, and I am pro-Israel. I support Israel. But
I'm a cuck. I'm a cuck. That's who Bernie Sanders is. Bernie Sanders is a cuck. He's a cuck.
They cannot continue to wage this immoral war against innocent people and expect taxpayers of the United States to support them. That has got to end. We've got to move to a 2-state solution.
Netanyahu said he doesn't want that. You're not paying attention to articles I read? Huh? You nutless wonder? You cuck? That's... Bernie Sanders is not a serious person.
The brutality in the West Bank, as you just indicated, illegal activity on the part of the settlers must end if they want support from the people of the United States. Hopefully, that will give support to people in Israel who understand that this right-wing extremism is bad for them and bad for their place in the world.
What a nutless wonder. I don't want to hear any more. Hey, here, let's listen to a snake. Ask if Biden will change course on supporting Netanyahu after aid workers' deaths. Here, give it up for Warren.
President Biden will be speaking with Benjamin Netanyahu today. Do you think the strike killing World Central Kitchen aid workers, do you think this is the moment that President Biden needs to change course and use leverage to force Netanyahu to do more?
Yeah, this is just one more reminder of
This is going to be the best word salad you've ever seen.
the kind of humanitarian disaster that Benjamin Netanyahu has created. Here are these wonderful people who go in out of the goodness of their hearts. They're trying to be helpful in the middle of a disaster, and they lose their lives. And my heart goes out to their families on this. Look, American policy has actually been for a very long time that we do not provide military aid to people or countries that are in violation of international.
Oh, shut the hell up. Yeah, the fact that you could actually say that. What? We haven't? Are you sure about that, Warren? You sure about that? Because the U.S.'s actions in the past beg to differ. And by the way, in the 2 articles that I read, Netanyahu, Biden is going to be delivering more arms and ammunition after Israel depleted in 6 months their entire artillery and bombs. And then, of course, Netanyahu saying, hey, Congress, money us now, baby.
Law or domestic U.S. law. And our laws are clear that anyone engaged in combat has to be careful about civilian life and has to give access to humanitarian aid. Prime Minister Netanyahu is clearly not doing that. And people have tried to give him a lot of space. He is not doing it, and he must be held accountable. We need 4 things to happen, and we need them to happen now. A ceasefire, the hostages need to be returned, humanitarian aid has to be opened up, and America needs to be pushing the parties toward a 2-state solution.
Have you not been paying attention, you senile old bat? Netanyahu said he doesn't want a 2-state solution. Biden's not going to push it. They're not going to do it. Nobody's going to do it. All your fantastic friends in Congress, in the U.S. Senate and House, are either bought by AIPAC or AIPAC has something over their head, or other pro-Israeli groups got that. You think that's going to... What?
Where everyone has the opportunity for self-determination, for security, and living with dignity going forward.
Oh, wow. How nice. Listen, I'm not going to punish all of you by sitting through more of Bernie and Warren speaking out of both sides of their mouth. Hell, they're speaking out of their wazoos. So give it up for Nick. Nick from RBN, take it away.
Is warning his party that supporting a genocide may cost them the upcoming election. You have to warn your party about genocide? The moment I have to warn my party about genocide, I'm no longer part of that party. Bernie Sanders, in an MSNBC interview, was essentially begging Joe Biden to stop sending weapons to Israel.
Are you worried about November?
Yeah, I am. Well, obviously, no matter what, it's going to be a difficult election, and I'm going to do everything that I can, despite my disagreement with the president over what's going on in Gaza, to make sure that Donald Trump is not elected president of the United States. That would be a horrific disaster for our country. But do I think that a lot of young people of color, many people, I mean, the polling is very clear. The Democratic base wants to stop funding for Netanyahu's war machine. So if your question is it going to hurt the president unless he turns this around? Yeah, it will.
How pathetic is it that Bernie Sanders has to beg the person that he endorsed for president to stop being a criminal? Yes, like I covered many times before.
And everyone has talked about this too. How independent media has been covering how Netanyahu is still begging the U.S. for more arms and ammunition, and that the Biden-Harris administration are delivering everything. Netanyahu comes here hand in hand, and it gets filled with so much money in treasury. And both Democratic and Republican politicians, that's right, AOC, I said both Democratic and Republican politicians are both owned by AIPAC and are more than happy to comply and follow the orders. Now, Bernie speaking out, all he is saying, oh, this is so sad. It's a way to trick voters into thinking that somehow he's going to influence Biden to change his mind. That's not going to happen.
Biden is a criminal who is breaking Leahy's law by sending weapons to a country that is committing mass human rights violations. Hey, but Nick, don't you know that Joe Biden is very upset with Netanyahu? Nick, don't you know that Biden called Netanyahu a bad fucking guy? If Israel goes into Rafah, Biden is going to give Netanyahu a stern talking to. Meanwhile, in reality, Joe Biden sent Israel 2,000-pound bombs as they were drawing up their Rafah plan. Well, Biden did show that he's upset about Israel striking and killing aid workers in Gaza, and Joe Biden said he's not going to change his policy in Gaza, despite Israel purposely targeting aid workers. This is the person that Bernie and the progressive left is trying to sell us as a good faith actor. It's very important to remember that Bernie Sanders is not the good guy in this story. He didn't support a ceasefire until months and months after this conflict. It took thousands and thousands of dead children for Bernie to realize that he was on the wrong side of history after supporting Israel.
In terms of a permanent ceasefire, I don't know how you can have a permanent ceasefire with Hamas, who has said before October 7th and after October 7th that they want to destroy Israel. They want a permanent war. I don't know how you have a permanent ceasefire with an attitude like that.
Literally no one is falling for the transparent attempt by Bernie Sanders to walk.
Nobody should. Nobody should fall for Bernie Sanders or his trick or how he's trying to convince voters that Biden is a good guy. Biden is not the good guy. He's not the hero of the story. He's not the champion. He's not your friend, folks. Get over it. Bernie doesn't care. Bernie Sanders never cared. Neither does Warren. They're going to deliver word salad, but they're only worried about how this election will play out because the Democrat numbers are at an all-time low. People are either choosing not to vote or looking at third parties and independents. And right now, it's a very tight race between Joe Biden and Donald Trump in key swing states. Now, it's going back and forth with Biden in the lead or Trump in the lead. It's because right now, the voting base for both Democrats and Republicans is shrinking. And the Democrats know that they're losing more people because the uncommitted vote, and this is my direct challenge to uncommitted voters, follow through with your promise. Because this administration just gave more ammunition and is more than willing to bend over backwards to appease Netanyahu. If you think anything's going to happen, even if the war was to stop tomorrow, that anything's going to happen in Israel, you're wrong. You're mistaken. And I'm so sorry. This is the world we live in, and the absolute fundamental truth is this. The Democrats do not respect your choices. They will not stand in solidarity with you, and they're more than happy to dust out AOC, Bernie, Warren, or anyone else that's a progressive heavyweight and tell you to vote for Biden because then things will be all hunky-dory. Don't fall for the lie. Bernie Sanders did this to us not once but twice, as did Warren. Wake up and break away.